In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to do a flawless makeup tutorial on a light skin. If this is what you would like to see, keep on watching. So first thing, I'm going to be hydrating the skin. After hydrating, I'm going to let it dry into the skin before I moisturized. For moisturizer, I used my Cetaphil moisturizer to moisturize the face. After moisturizing, you let it dry into the skin before you prime. For prime, I'm going to be using this Kiss Beauty primer on her face for a long lasting. I'm just going to apply it all over the face. So when doing your skin prep, it's important to allow the product you apply on the face dry up before moving on to the next product. So after that, I'm going to be using this TM Essential mattifying primer. I love this mattifying primer because it's not as strong as some mattifying primer. This is also good. It just helps the makeup to last very long without you sweating or having oil on your face. So while applying your mattifying primer, make sure you avoid the areas underneath your eyes. So after that, I let it dry before I went back to spray the face again. Moving on to foundation, I'm going to be mixing these two shades of foundation from Sylvimak. So I first of all used a flat brush to apply it before I blended with my beauty sponge. So always make sure your beauty sponge is soft and damp. With that, you can blend the foundation seamlessly without any stress. So after blending in the foundation, next thing is to lock it up with the same spray. This would help to keep the foundation intact. So after locking it, I'm going to let it dry into the skin before moving on to contour. For cream contour, I'm going to be using my Zickel foundation in the shade 015 to contour her face. This shade is just 2 shades darker than her skin tone. So it's either use a shade that is 2 or 3 shades darker than the skin tone to contour the face. So after contouring, moving on to cream blush, I'm going to be using this shade from my Blossom Lip palette and apply it above her cheekbone and a little bit on the tip of her nose. Then I went ahead using my beauty sponge to blend. So see the effect of applying cream blush on the face. After that, I'm going to be using my Nubanbeauty concealer in the shade 042 to highlight her face. So if you want to highlight the face, you need a shade that is 2 to 3 shades lighter than the skin to highlight the face. So after that, I'm going to be using my beauty sponge to blend the concealer on the highlighted area. So after highlighting the face, next thing is to set the concealer on the highlighted area. But before setting, I went back using my beauty sponge to blend the areas underneath her eyes to avoid creasing. After which, I went ahead with my setting powder from Merak Cosmetics in the shade Ginger to set. So while setting, you need to be light-handed, take it one step at a time. Do not pack too much setting powder and make sure you set properly before moving on to the next place. Some people prefer using a loose powder to set the concealer before going on with their setting powder. It's also good, do what works for you, but most of the time I prefer using my setting powder to set before going on with a loose or compact powder. So after setting the concealer on the highlighted area, I'm going to be setting the rest of her face with this Milani compact powder in the shade Light to set the rest of her face. So while setting the rest of the face, make sure you use the exact shade of her skin color to set the rest of the face. Do not use a color lighter or darker. Make sure it's her exact skin color. So after setting the rest of the face, next thing is to do dry contouring, which is low light contouring. I'm going to be using this shade from my Becharm powder palette to set the cream contour I applied earlier. I'm going to be contouring her nose with the same shade I used to contour her face to contour her nose. So after that, I'm going to be using this light shade from the same powder palette on the areas I highlighted. For powdery blush, I'm going to be using this shade here from my Tara blush palette and apply it above her cheekbone. After which I went back to spray the face again. This would help the product to sit properly into the skin and reduce the powder effect. After that, I'm going to let the face dry before moving on to baking. For baking, I'm going to be using the same setting powder I used to set her face to bake her face. So moving on to the brows, I'm going to be using my spoolie brush to brush her brows. Then I went ahead using my carrot gel liner and my angled brush to draw her brows following the shape of her brows. After that, I'm going to be highlighting her brows with my Flawless Ivy Concealer in the shade Creamy Ivory to highlight her brows. So after applying the concealer, next thing I did was to blend it immediately. So next is to set the concealer. I'm going to be using this light shade from my Becharm powder palette to set the concealer. For her eyeshadow base, I'm going to be using the same concealer I used to highlight her brows on her lid. Then I went ahead to set the concealer with the same shades from the same powder palette. So moving on to eyeshadow, I'm going to be using this shade from my Kylie eyeshadow palette to mark out my transition line. So this is like a precise eyeshadow brush. It's not a blending brush. You need this type of brush if you want to create this eye look. So next, I'm going to be using this shade from the same eyeshadow palette. I'm just going to use it to darken the transition line. So after that, I'm going to be using this shade from my focallure eyeshadow palette. I'm just going to use it to blend out this eyeshadow to avoid any demarcation. So next is to cut her crease. I'm going to be using this Flawless Ivy Concealer in the shade Creamy Ivory to cut her crease. So while cutting the crease, you need an angled brush. Trust me, you need this brush to be able to cut the crease. So you don't need anyhow brush. Make sure your brush is as flat as an angled brush. With that, you can do your cut crease without making any mistake. So after cutting the crease, I'm going to be placing this eyeshadow on her lid. So my client wanted a lighter color. I had to add this color from my Blossom eyeshadow palette and place it on her lid. So I went back using that brush I used in marking the transition line. I went back using it to blend again. After that, I used my eyeshadow blending brush to blend. So next, I'm going to be lining her upper and lower lash line with my gel liner. Then I added a little pigment here because she wanted something like this. So next, I'm going to be prepping her natural lashes with my Kiss Beauty mascara in order to give it volume. After that, I'm going to be wearing her these lashes from Msmetic lashes. Moving on to the lip, I'm going to be applying this classic lip stain in the middle. Then I went ahead to outline the lip with this shade from my Blossom lip palette. So next, I'm going to be dusting off the excess powder underneath her eyes. After that, I'm going to be prepping her lower lashes with my Kiss Beauty mascara. Then I went back using my powder brush to blend everything together. After that, I'm going to be setting the face with my Kiss Beauty Fix Spray. After setting it, I'm going to let it dry properly into the skin. So after drying, I'm going to be using my Maybelline highlighter to highlight her face. So after that, I'm going to be using my Msmetic cheek glaze on the places I highlighted. Like this would help the face to glow. So this was when they took the light. This was the makeup without any light. After that, they brought back the light, and I continued. So after applying the cheek glaze, I'm going to be sealing it up with my So Pro Seal It spray. And this is the finished look, guys. I hope you all enjoyed watching this video. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up, like, comment, share and subscribe. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. I will see you all in my next video. Bye, guys.